They get more in retirement a month than their average worker of the company they were at gets a year. The Institute for Policy Studies that does great work on the inequality in America, the gut-wrenching inequality that has destroyed so many lives, with 64% of Americans saying that each month they are at least somewhat unsure of how they're going to pay for basic necessities. They worry about where that money's going to come from every month. 64%. I mean, there really is no middle class. There's 64% of the country that doesn't know how they're going to pay for basic necessities. Then you have a tiny, probably 10% that basic necessities are covered and they think they're fine. And that is maybe what you would call the middle class. And then you have this top 10 to 20% that is just insanely rich. And those are the percentages of America now. Essentially no middle class. But they do great work. The Institute for Policy Studies does great work about this inequality and finding new and different aspects of it that we do not hear about enough. This is a study on the subsidizing retirements for the rich. A tale of two retirements, why CEOs get bigger retirement subsidies than the rest of us. The top 5 executives at S&P 500 firms held a combined $8.9 billion in special tax-deferred accounts at the end of 2021. Such perks became even more common over the past year. So this is just 5 executives. You hear $8.9 billion and you think like, okay, well, if that's all the executives of Fortune 500 companies and you add all, no, it's 5. It's 5. 5 dudes. I think they're all dudes. But whatever, 5 people have $8.9 billion in tax-deferred accounts. Now, I want to be careful the way I say these next lines because they're written in such a way that it's quite confusing. At least it was for me. Low-wage employers. So if you hear that real quick, you hear low-wage employers and you go, oh, okay, so these are kind of the employers. These are employers that don't make a lot of money. No, they mean these are the employers of low-wage workers. So these are incredibly rich people. So, like, if you were to call someone a low-wage employer, it sounds like you're like, that guy doesn't make much money. No, he is an incredibly rich motherfucker. That's the technical accounting term for it. Incredibly rich, who employs low-wage people, does not pay his employees very much. And I think they need to find a new term for it because it baffled me at first. Low-wage employers who have low-wage people, have among the largest deferred compensation accounts, while many of their workers can't afford even to contribute to 401k plans. At more than 20 low-wage employers, so again, this is 20 incredibly rich companies that have low-wage workers. So think of Walmart, Dollar Store, all those types of places. Executives have sufficient deferred compensation funds to generate monthly retirement checks larger than their workers' median annual pay. And again, you've got to pay close attention to these terms. They get more in retirement, so not working, they get more a month than their average worker gets a year. A year. And again, these things are, even if you do understand them on the first read, it's tough to really take them in. It's tough to really get the brain ball around them. I don't know about you, but you feel the brain ball's arms just stretching out and like, and it like, you're like, wait a second. They get more in taxpayer government subsidized deferred compensation, deferred taxes. So they're not paying taxes on it, funds. They get more in retirement a month than their average worker of the company they were at gets a year. Walmart CEO Doug McMillon held more than $169 million in his deferred compensation account at the end of 2022, enough to generate a monthly retirement check. You ready? What do you think his monthly retirement check is? A monthly retirement check of more than $1 million. He gets $1 million a month in tax-free deferred compensation, while 46% of Walmart workers have zero balances in their 401ks, have zero retirement. No matter how many years they've been there, 46%, you could be there. I'm sure there's plenty of Walmart workers been there 30 years, have zero in their retirement fund. Median pay at Walmart is $27,000 a year. Median pay, meaning half of their 2 million employees make less than $27,000 a year. Hyatt Hotels board chair and billionaire Thomas Pritzker is sheltering $91 million from taxes in his deferred pot. 36% of the hotel chain's employees have not been able to set aside any funds in their 401ks. Half of Hyatt employees make less than $40,000 a year. So while he's sitting on $91 million in his subsidized deferred compensation pot, his average worker, half. So half of his workers make less than $40,000 and 36% have zero in their retirement funds. 53% of eligible participants in Home Depot's 401k plan have zero balances. Home Depot CEO, by the way, and current board chair Craig Manier is sitting on $14.8 million in deferred compensation. I don't know if it's the same guy, but I know the CEO and I think founder of Home Depot was maybe it is the same guy, was insanely religious, evangelical, and forced his workers to look at giant TVs with Bible quotes on them during lunchtime. So isn't it fun to see a guy who's insanely religious treating his workers like absolute garbage? Don't you love that? That's one hell of a book, that Bible, isn't it? Tells you can treat workers like absolute garbage. Just, you can have millions of dollars in unpaid taxes that retirement fund that doesn't require taxes, so you don't pay it back at all. And you can treat your workers like garbage, so they have no retirement. And you can still be a great Christian. It's just wonderful. Meanwhile, former CEO and current board chair, I already did that, enough to generate a monthly retirement check 3 times larger than the company's median worker pay. That's their annual pay. Again, I don't think the one thing instant policy studies doesn't do well enough is they don't yell keywords of the facts they bring forward. I mean, this stuff is written in font that is like some of their words need to be like in 76-point font, just blinking. Because I read that this guy has enough monthly retirement to get enough monthly retirement check 3 times larger than the company's median worker pay of $30,000. And it doesn't really sit in my brain. But if I hear the former CEO has enough in deferred compensation to generate a monthly, that's the word that should be blinking, retirement check 3 times larger than the company's median worker annual pay. Really? Come on, Institute for Policy Studies. Get some bigger fonts in here. Who is it that's in charge of bigger fonts? Can we hire a guy? Does he have the materials? Can he bring them in? Okay. I don't know how much wood and nails it requires, but can we get some please get some larger fonts in here. We have to. As ordinary families struggle with rising housing costs, real estate executives are sitting on massive tax sheltered funds. I'm just going to do a few more of these and I'll wrap up. Paul Saville, executive chairman of NVR, the owner of Ryan Homes, has $488 million in his account, gets a $3 million a month retirement check. That's 1,500 times as much as a typical American retiree. 2 leading rental apartment corporations, Camden Property Trust and Avalon Bay Communities, have crazy amounts of money, $80 million each. two executives get $80 million each in their accounts. And I'll just read one more. Healthcare executives has amassed huge deferred compensation accounts. Buoyed by taxpayer investments, the CEO of Centene, the nation's largest Medicaid provider. I always love these companies where they got rich off providing Medicaid. They got rich off providing the thing that is supposed to help the poor. It's just disgusting. Like the amount of money that they're able to steal from the system that is trying to help the people that have been already destroyed by our medical system. Jesus. And then, fueled by COVID-19 vaccine profits, Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla enjoyed a 37% increase in the value of his deferred compensation account over the past year, from $29 million to $44 million at the end of 2022. All right, they go through a bunch of others, but, and I know at times it can be like, I've heard it, stop it, but, you know, you got to name names, right? You got to name names. If I had their addresses, I'd give you those as well.